Have you ever walked into a room and within seconds sensed a tension so thick you could almost taste it, even though everyone was smiling? Maybe you're the one who notices the slight tighten in a friend's jaw, or the way their voice dropped just half an octave, signals that everyone else seems to miss. You've been called too sensitive, or told you overthink everything. You're the person with a plan B, C, and D for every possible disaster, constantly scanning the horizon for a storm that hasn't arrived yet. But what if that overthinking isn't a flaw? What if your razor-sharp intuition and your ability to read people like an open book aren't just personality traits, but a highly sophisticated survival software installed by your past? Today, we're going deep into the concept of trauma-induced intelligence. We will explore why a turbulent history might have gifted you with a brain that is, quite literally, wired for brilliance. But as we'll discover, this superpower often comes with a hidden, heavy price. Welcome to Tom Lee Moy. Let's uncover the truth behind the intelligence of the wounded. For a long time, the narrative surrounding trauma has been one of purely damage. We are taught to see survivors through the lens of deficit, focusing on anxiety, social withdrawal, or emotional fragility. But this perspective overlooks a fascinating biological pivot: the brain's incredible plasticity. When a child grows up in an environment where the emotional weather is unpredictable, their brain doesn't just break, it adapts. It optimizes for survival. This phenomenon is grounded in the concept of hypervigilance. According to Dr. Koos, Bessel van der Kolk, author of the seminal work The Body Keeps the Score, trauma rewires the brain to prioritize the detection of threat. The amygdala, your brain's smoke detector, becomes hypersensitized. While this can lead to chronic stress, it also results in an extraordinary ability to process subtle environmental cues that others ignore. Furthermore, psychologists Richard Tedeschi and Lawrence Calhoun introduced the framework of post-traumatic growth, PTG. Their research suggests that the struggle following adversity can lead to significant cognitive gains, particularly in personal strength and new possibilities. You aren't just overreacting to the world. You are utilizing a specialized cognitive toolkit developed in the heat of necessity. Science shows that your sharpest insights might actually be the blossoms of your oldest scars. And to understand this intelligence, we must look at it not as a gift, but as a series of strategic adaptations. When safety is not guaranteed, the mind develops what we might call the 4 pillars of the wounded mind. 1. The sentinel's intuition, hyperempathy. The first trait is an almost supernatural ability to sense the vibe of a room. This is more than just empathy. It is effective empathy. In a home where a parent's mood could shift like the wind, a child learns to read micro-expressions, the slight twitch of a lip, the tension in a hand. You didn't learn this to be hint. You learned it to know whether you needed to hide or be helpful. Today, this manifests as a high emotional intelligence, EEQ, allowing you to navigate complex social hierarchies with ease. Jump 2. The Grandmaster's strategy, risk analysis. While others walk blindly into the future, you are always playing a game of mental chess. You don't just see a situation, you see every possible failure point. This is cognitive complexity. Because you were once caught off guard by a life-altering event, your brain now refuses to be surprised again. You are the one who knows where the emergency exits are, literally and metaphorically. 3. The pattern seeker, contextual observation. You notice the glitches in the matrix. You connect dots that seem unrelated to others. This is because your brain has been trained in pattern recognition. When you've lived through chaos, you become an expert at finding the logic within the noise. You can predict an outcome because you've seen the subtle precursors 1,000 times before. Chug. For the alchemist's resourcefulness. Problem solving. Finally, there is the ability to create something from nothing. Many survivors grow up in resource-poor environments, whether that's a lack of money, stability, or emotional support. This forces the brain into a state of divergent thinking. You don't see a dead end. You see a wall that needs a ladder. The story of Sarah, the girl who saw too much. Imagine Sarah. Growing up, Sarah's father was a man of thunderstorms. Quiet one moment, explosive the next. Sarah lived in her comfort zone by becoming invisible. But as she grew, she felt a need to belong and joined a high-pressure corporate firm. Suddenly, she was thrown into a strange situation, a boardroom of egos and hidden agendas. While her colleagues struggled with the office politics, Sarah's survival software kicked in. She could feel the CEO's irritation before he spoke. She anticipated a market crash because she recognized the chaotic patterns from her childhood. She adapted and rose to the top. She attained the success she wanted, but she paid a price. A constant, low-level hum of anxiety in her chest. She returned home not as a victim, but as a leader. Yet she realized she was still wearing her battle armor in her living room. She had to change, learning that while her past gave her the armor, she no longer needed to wear it 24/7 to be safe. Why does the mind choose this path? To understand the intelligence of the wounded, we have to look at the brain not as a calculator, but as a survival engine. The primary architect of this intelligence is the HPA axis, the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. Think of this as your body's central command for stress. When you experience prolonged adversity in your formative years, this system stays online indefinitely. It's like a thermostat that has been broken, so it stays at 100 degrees. This constant state of alert floods the brain with cortisol and norepinephrine, keeping you in a high-definition state of awareness. But the most fascinating change happens in the amygdala, your brain's emotional smoke detector. In a study published in The Lancet Public Health, researchers noted that early life stress can actually increase the gray matter volume in the amygdala or sharpen its connectivity to the prefrontal cortex, the logic center. This creates a phenomenon often called the amygdala hijack in reverse. Instead of just panicking, your logic center learns to work with your fear. Your brain becomes a high-speed processor. It bypasses the slow, conscious thought and moves straight to pattern recognition. This is why you know something is wrong before you can explain why. Furthermore, attachment theory, pioneered by John Bowlby, suggests that if your primary base was unstable, your brain developed hyperattunement as a compensatory skill. You became a detective of human behavior because, for a child, understanding the parent isn't just a social skill, it's a biological necessity. You didn't just grow up, you evolved to fit a high-stakes environment. While it is empowering to recognize the brilliance born from your past, we must be careful not to romanticize the trauma. This intelligence is a survival adaptation, not a free gift. It was bought with the currency of your childhood peace. There is a significant difference between solitude-driven insight and trauma-driven hypervigilance. If you are constantly scanning for threats, your nervous system is trapped in a fight-or-flight loop. This can lead to CPTSD, complex post-traumatic stress disorder, chronic fatigue, and an inability to form deep, trusting bonds. When you are always looking for what's wrong, it becomes nearly impossible to enjoy what's right. Furthermore, we must respect cultural context. In many societies, this hyper-independence is praised as strength or maturity, leading many to suffer in silence while being celebrated for their productivity. We must remember that being good at handling chaos shouldn't be your only identity. You deserve a life where you are valued for who you are, not just for how well you can navigate a crisis. Think of your trauma-induced intelligence as a heavy suit of armor. In the middle of the battlefield where you grew up, that armor was the only thing that kept you safe. It made you strong, it made you sharp, and it allowed you to survive what should have broken you. But here is the truth. The war is over. You may still be wearing that armor in your living room, in your relationships, and in your dreams. You might be afraid that if you take it off, you will lose the very thing that makes you smart or capable. But your intelligence isn't in the armor. It's in the person who learned how to build it. You don't have to be on guard to be brilliant. You're allowed to put the weight down. You're allowed to be more than just a survivor. You're allowed to be happy, even when there is no crisis to solve. If you've spent your life feeling like you see too much or feel too much, know that you are not alone, and you are not broken. Has your intuition ever saved you in a way you couldn't explain? Tell us your story in the comments. Let's create a space of shared understanding. If this analysis resonated with you, please subscribe to Tam Li Moi and join our community. In our next video, we will explore the high sensitivity HSP trait. Is it a gift or a curse? Until then, take a deep breath. You're safe now.